Hello and welcome to the Healed with Alyssa podcast. I am so excited for you guys to learn more information from me. This podcast is going to be all about helping heal your child and your family naturally without drugs or surgery. So let's get into it. Hello and welcome to today's episode on Healed with Alyssa podcast. Today we're going to be talking about coughs. This is the number one issue that my patients are coming with today. The last few weeks is they're having coughs. The cough is lingering. It's interrupting their sleep at night. So this is a big issue right now, what we're dealing with. So we're going to be talking about the different causes that I find for my patients that have coughs, different natural remedies to help with the cough. So first, let's talk about the different causes of coughs. And this can also be like an asthma as well. So they don't really diagnose kids with asthma until they are over 3 years old. Until then, they call it reactive airway disease. So these are kids who, whenever they get sick, they are wheezing, or they have RSV where they end up in the hospital, have to have breathing support because they are really struggling. So this to me tells me that their lungs are compromised, right? And what causes lungs to be compromised are toxins. You know that I love to talk about my toxins. So this doesn't only go for people with asthma or kids with reactive airway disease, but these kids are more likely, right? Kids who have, wheezing, they're more likely to develop more issues relating to cough, right? So cough is never normal. It's never normal to have a cough. It's a sign that there's some kind of irritant. Either it's in the lungs, or sometimes the cough can be coming from the throat, right? So that could also be like postnasal drip, right? That can be causing cough. So this is why sometimes at nighttime cough can get worse, is because you're laying down and then your sinuses are draining, and that's called a postnasal drip. So that can cause cough as well. So let's talk about a little bit about the causes that I'm finding recently in my practice, which for the cough. Number one is virus, right? That's pretty obvious. But if you have listened to any of my other podcasts, you know that I don't believe that viruses exist. So what is a virus? A virus is literally just a toxin that we're exposed to. Where are we getting these viruses? We are getting them from our food, right? Toxins in our food, toxins in the air. So if you know anything about what they're spraying in our air, we're getting these toxins from the air. We are also getting these from the water. Okay. I only recommend drinking distilled water because none of these other waters are effective enough to remove the toxins. So I have a reverse osmosis water filter in my home that I spent a lot of money on, and it has high levels of virus in it. When I test it, when I use my muscle testing to see what is in my water, my reverse osmosis water, it comes high levels of virus. Now, my distilled water does not show up with a virus. Why is that? Because it removes 99% of toxins that is not removed from reverse osmosis and from Berkey and from all these other water systems. So now that we have, a virus, and people say, well, if the virus is just a toxin, then how is the whole family sick and everyone else around? Because these are in the environment, right? These toxins. So as I said, the air, we're all breathing the same air. Also, the water, we're all drinking the same water in the same vicinity, right? If you live in the same house, you are all drinking the same water. Even if you all go to the same school, most of you are drinking the same water, breathing the same air. Another thing I'm seeing a lot with coughs is mold. Okay. And the fall is a very moldy season, right? The leaves fall down and then it rains and then that harbors mold. And just general from an allergy standpoint, mold is the highest in the fall. So people who have like mold allergies, it's the highest in the fall. And also, people are just starting to turn on their heating systems, right? So maybe there's mold buildup in the heating system, and that could be why it's stirring up these coughs. I know a lot of people are sensitive to the heat. The dry, forced air can cause cough as well. And next, I'm going to talk about parasites. So, parasites is another cause of cough lately that I've seen. And why is this being reactive? Because we are eating more sugar now than usual, right? So we had Halloween, and that's a sugar holiday. Then we had Thanksgiving. We ate a ton of pie. We're eating leftover Halloween candy that we have in our house. And now is coming on for Christmas and New Year's. So more, chocolates and more cookies, more candies. All of these things are sugar, and sugar feeds parasites. And sugar causes a decrease in the immune system. This is why sugar is the worst thing for you to eat. Not saying that never to eat sugar again, but it is really important that you and your family decrease your sugar intake. Now, people say to me, but I only eat, coconut sugar. So that is still sugar. Maybe it's a little bit less inflammatory than white sugar, but that is still sugar. So those are some of the biggest things I'm finding for coughs, the different toxins, or we can call them virus, pesticides, different environmental toxins, which I would go back and say that is a virus. The mold I'm finding coming up a lot, and then I'm also finding parasites. But for the most part, I'm finding toxins and mold, because the mold is being stirred up right now because of the change in season, but also because people are starting to turn on their heating, and that could be a sign. And we're spending more time in the house, right? So, we're not spending time outside getting, I guess you would call it, fresh air. More time in the house. And if there's a mold issue, you can be exposed to that more because you're spending more time at home in the house and not, outdoors doing outdoor activities. So let's talk about some natural remedies to help with coughs. Okay. So number one would be, especially if it's like a really small baby, would be to nebulize saline, right? This is always like the first step. So what does that do? So that just like moistens the airway, even if there's some congestion as well, that will help with congestion. And also I highly recommend getting a bulb syringe, right? So pulling out whatever mucus from the nose can even help with the cough and can help with breathing, right? Because we want the babies are nose breathers. So we want to make sure that their nose is patent so that they can breathe, more appropriately. And next, so a lot of remedies are not approved for kids like 6 months and younger. So that's when they really use the saline when it comes to that. And, even putting sitting in the shower, sitting in the bathroom with the baby and steaming out the shower can be really helpful. If the infant has a cough and congestion and just feels crummy, when anyone is sick, the most important thing is that, they're breathing appropriately, that they're staying hydrated. Okay. So, if your child is sick, it's okay if they're not going to eat for a few days, right? If they have a decrease of appetite, that's normal when you get sick, but we want to make sure that they're staying hydrated. So when it's a baby, we want like at least 3 or not more wet diapers a day. That's a good rule of thumb. If they're not getting that, that's when you need to definitely call your doctor. If it's even less than that, maybe even bring them to the hospital to get IV, fluids, things like that. Also, making sure that they are breathing appropriately. So, infants, if you see their nose flaring out, it's called nasal flaring. That is the sign that they're using a lot of accessory muscles to breathe. Okay, that's a sign that they could potentially be in distress with their breathing. Also, if you see by their clavicles that it's like pulling in, or even their neck muscles are being used a lot, that can also be a sign that they're in distress, that they're using a lot of energy to breathe. So, we don't want to go to the hospital, but when it comes to breathing, it's not a joke, right? We want to make sure that your child is in the right hands if they're having trouble breathing. Okay. We can always help them after to get whatever toxins out that they were exposed to when they were in the hospital, but breathing is no joke. Okay. And next, a sign of breathing distress for kids is like pulling in their rib cage. So, if a child is, a young child, when I worked in the hospital, we would always lift their shirt up because they may look happy, but you lift that shirt up and they are struggling to breathe, struggling. So, and it always is a good idea to, bring them to their regular doctor, have them have their lungs listened to make sure that, they're not wheezing, they're not struggling to breathe. Always trust your gut when it comes to, if you feel like your child is not breathing correctly, always trust your gut. And if you don't like the answer that you receive, then go somewhere else. Go to if you don't like the hospital, then go to another one. Especially with kids, I think it's really important to go to a pediatric specific place. So I was an ER nurse for many years, and I generally worked in pediatric hospitals, but we would get transfers from different hospitals that were not pediatric specific, and they don't get as much training in children as someone who is specifically a pediatric nurse. So if you don't like the answer that you receive from either a doctor or a nurse, go reach out and get another opinion, right? This is your child. This is your child's health. Doctors do not know everything, right? Doctors do not know everything. So definitely get a second opinion. I cannot stress that enough. Another thing that's really good for coughs is honey, right? So honey is not recommended in under 1 year old, but if they are, then I definitely would recommend honey. This is something, right, that you just have in your house, that might even help a cough. Also, maybe some lemon can help it too. So next, I want some other remedies that I love. The boron chestal kids cough syrup. This is really, really amazing. I used this with my son when he had a cough a few weeks ago, and it worked amazing. There's some really great homeopathic remedies in here. It tastes good. He actually drank a third of the bottle because he must have loved it that much. I had to call poison control because he drank a third of the bottle, and I was like nervous, but they were like, "Oh, it's fine. He may just get like a stomach ache," and he didn't even have a stomach ache or like diarrhea, nothing. So that shows like how safe these products are. That my 3-year-old drank a third of the bottle, and he he was literally fine. Absolutely no symptoms. I'm not saying to go and drink the third of the bottle, but if God forbid, yeah. But then we put it away so that he couldn't have access to it anymore. Next, I want to talk about CXR. So this is actually support for the lungs. So this has like lung tissue factors in it. Also has L-lysine, which is really good for viruses, immune system support. And it has just some herbs to help support the lungs. So I really like this product if, a child has more chronic lung issues, like an asthma or something like that. This is a really great product. And, this is something that they can take on a regular basis as well. It's not just specific for, cough. Another product that I want to talk about is Virad Chem. So this is one of my favorite binders that we use at our practice. So it stands for viruses, radiation, and chemicals. So as I said before, a lot of things I'm seeing are viruses. So this binder will help to bind whatever toxins are in the body causing the cough, right? And this actually does have some support against mold as well, because it has some other binders in here that help with mold. So this is a really great binder to have in the house, to keep on hand if anyone does get sick. If I feel like a cold is coming on for myself, I pound muscle test, whatever I need. But usually I need as an adult, I usually need 6 of these if I feel the cold coming on. And then by the next day, I'm 100% back to normal. Generally, for my son, when I dose him with this, I usually give him 1/8 of a capsule of Virad Chem. So it's strong. Kids don't need a lot of it, but my son usually takes 1/8 of a capsule for the Virad Chem binder. Next, I want to talk a little bit about Thymex. So this is another one of my great products that I love for overall immune system support, and even for wheezing. My mom has asthma, right? She has an inhaler. She used to, whenever she would get sick, it would linger. She would get bronchitis. But since I had started her on this, she no longer gets that anymore. And she barely gets any wheezing. So it's really amazing. When she's actively wheezing, having trouble, I will give her a higher dose. Sometimes I found she needed I think one time I gave her 8 an hour, and it really brought down. At that time, she almost wanted to go to the hospital. I was like, let's just try this. Let's do the nebula. As a nurse, in the hospital, I know what they're gonna do. So I was like, let's just try this. If not, then we can go to the hospital. You know, always, if you have trouble breathing, I do recommend, seek emergency care, right? If you don't have the tools that you need, right? If you don't have a nebulizer, if you don't have, some people need to take albuterol. So it is important that you seek the care that you need. Okay. As I said before, don't stress about going to the hospital. You can always improve whatever toxins later, but yeah, you need to especially with kids. I can't stress that enough, especially with breathing, especially with kids. And it just definitely go get checked by your doctor, have the lungs listened to, just make sure that everything is good. And then next I want to talk about this called Pulmonest. So this is another liquid herbal supplement that really helps support the lungs and helps with cough as well. So this has some thyme leaf, it has peppermint leaf, fennel leaf. So this is a really great product also to help with cough. There's a ton of products on the market to help with cough, but I really think that adding a binder to, if you or your child has a cough is really, really important, right? Because that's going to help to clean up whatever toxins there, right? That's going to mop up the toxins, as opposed to just taking a supplement to help with the lungs or whatever is going on. But it is really important that we mop up whatever toxins are there to help you get better quicker. So I will link the Virad Chem in the show notes. I highly recommend having this in your house. It's one of my favorite binders to help support the immune system. And it also binds, toxic chemicals in the environment, right? So it does bind other pesticides. It does bind radiation, radioactive elements. So most of us are being poisoned by radioactive elements. So this really supports that. But one of my favorite supplements for the kids for cough is the Chestal Kids from Boron. It is just such a great supplement for them to take. And it's just super easy. It tastes good. So yeah, I think that's all for today about cough. I can go on and on, But, my number one tips is just like look at your diet, look at your kids' diet, make sure it is clean, really cutting down on processed foods, sugar, food dyes. I mean, these things really affect the immune system. Our immune system is not meant to function from all these toxins, right? And if we're not eating whole foods, our body is going to associate that with a toxin. So that is why our body will start to attack itself after a certain amount of time. So, yeah, that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any other topics you want me to discuss, please send me a message on Instagram. I would love to hear whatever topics you guys would like to hear. And then also, I am still offering $20 off any of my products, right? If you leave a written review on Apple Podcasts and you screenshot it and send it to me in a DM, I will give you the coupon code for that. And yeah, and stay well and happy holidays. I'll see you on the next episode.
If this podcast episode resonated with you, please share it with another mother or another family who's going through similar issues. And if you could please leave us a review and a rating, it would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.